Hi, I'm Stijn van Vertigem, Technical Marketing Engineer for IPS. This is a short demonstration of the Cisco IPS context-aware architecture. Let's start by illustrating why context matters when it comes to intrusion prevention systems. When an IPS takes into account contextual information, it can take more accurate mitigation and alerting decisions. Context also allows the IPS to filter events that pose no business risk from the analyst's workload, so that the analyst can focus on incidents that really matter. In addition to that, context in combination with a broad spectrum of alert and logging actions, as well as business risk rating, gives analysts all the tools to quickly determine the appropriate follow-up to any incident. Cisco Context-Aware IPS leverages the Cisco SecureX framework. Cisco SecureX uses context-aware security to identify crucial information needed to make dynamic and intelligent network access, control, and threat protection decisions that traditional security solutions simply can't provide. It identifies who is attempting to access the network, what role that person plays in the organization, what resources that person is trying to access, where that person is located at time of the access attempt, what device is being used to gain access, and how the person is accessing the network. The architecture for this solution on IPS is threefold. First, we can flexibly choose what to inspect. Secondly, we pass traffic to our signature engines, which in real time associate a flow with a signature or multiple signatures. There we can provide unprecedented on-box correlation capabilities. Finally, with all the information gathered from the signature inspection engine and the SecureX environment, we can make risk assessment decisions that are relevant to your business. Let's talk about each phase in detail. In the first phase, customers are provided with flexible controls so that they can choose what types of flows they want to inspect and how they want to inspect them. The 5 tuple are important parameters to provide flexible policy selection. Cisco uses additional parameters such as a VLANs or even a user ID by leveraging the Identity firewall feature on the ASA platform with integrated IPS. This is important because it allows us to apply better and more adapted security where it counts. Let me give you an example. Here's an example of using identity to choose a policy. In this example, we're applying a different IPS policy to our IT staff or NetOps and SecOps group than we are applying to the global user group. Another use case could be is that we want to allow our database admins to manage the SQL database and run SQL queries using an HTTP connection, while other users should not be allowed to do this, and any attempt of another user to do this should be considered an SQL injection and should be blocked by the IPS. Let's zoom into our policy. We'll first have a look at this part of the policy, which is our policy configuration, and then we'll have a look at this part, which is really our user selection based on identity. Okay, so here's our policy, and you can see we have two different policies. We have a global class policy, which applies an IPS policy to our general user population, and this policy, this signature policy, is set up so that these users are not allowed to use any network testing auditing tools. For example, ping will be blocked for these users. Then we have a different policy which is applied to our IT staff or NetOps SecOps. In this case, the IPS policy is configured in a way that we still get alerted whenever a network testing tool, for example ICMP ping, is used, but we're not going to drop that traffic for this user group. And now let's have a look at the user selection by clicking here. And this shows that we're using the Identity firewall feature, which ties into Active Directory. We're selecting two of our user groups, SecOps and NetOps, in our Threat DLabs domain. And this is then associated with the policy we saw in the previous step. Now let's have a look at how this looks like from a reporting point of view. And for that we go into the CSM event viewer. Let's zoom into our events. And here we see different events. First we see sales user. We retrieve the identity by using Identity firewall, and that sales user is logged into sales PC and he's trying to ping. Well, our IPS policy for the general user population does not allow ICMP, so our IPS detected that and dropped the ICMP request. Then we see that another user, in this case IPS admin, who's part of the IT staff, NetOps, SecOps, is using the same PC as the sales user was using before, and he's trying to use ICP. In this case, as we mentioned, we allow our IT staff to use network auditing testing tools. We allow them to use ICP, but we still want to get alerted. So the IPS noticed that, but we didn't take any mitigation action. Now let's have a look at the second phase, which is inline on-box correlation. Identifying anti-evasion techniques and normalization is an important aspect of the IPS to prevent attackers from obfuscating attacks and evading the IPS. Additionally, Cisco IPS tags the flows with specific signatures. In fact, we can tag a flow with multiple signatures to provide better security. Let me give you an example. In this report, we see 3 events with the same source and destination. Let's start off by looking at the lower 2 events. The first event here shows that signature 5477 is firing. This signature identifies a possible heap payload construction. As you can see, this is a low severity event with a low business risk. However, within a short time frame, signature 5609 also fired, from the same source to the same destination. This signature has an even lower severity and a lower business risk. However, because the 2 signatures fired with the same source and destination in a short amount of time, a third signature fired. This is signature 5609-2. This signature is a meta signature, with a high severity that correlates to 2 prior signature events. As you can see, a packet drop action or mitigation action has been applied as a result of the correlation. In the prior phase, Cisco IPS tags a flow with multiple signatures. In this third phase, we take all those tags or the meta tag to provide a business risk rating of a network flow. We get both severity and fidelity information about the signature that is firing to determine the risk rating. But this is not the only data point. To improve accuracy, we have attacker and victim information to make better decisions in line with lower latency. We also know the business value of the victim and the type of the victim, for example, if it's a Windows Server or an iOS router. We also have information about the attacker that provides greater fidelity. Cisco Security Intelligent Operations, or SIO, will provide our sensor with information about the reputation of the source, which is based on global collection and correlation of internet traffic. Let me give you a couple of real-world examples. In this CSM report, we see 3 events. The first event from the top shows a Windows SMB RPC signature firing, with the destination being a Linux host. Linux is not vulnerable to this attack, so our business risk is low at 60 and no action is taken beyond the alert. You can configure CSM to only send out an alert when a certain risk rating threshold is reached to ensure that the analysts can focus their attention only on the relevant threats. The second event shows that the same signature is firing, however this time the destination operating system is Windows, which is potentially vulnerable to this attack. Due to the relevancy and increased business risk, the risk rating was increased to 70, which is above a defined threshold, and we dropped the packet. The third event shows the same signature is firing, but again a different destination. In this case, the destination OS is also Windows, but on top of that, our destination IP has been configured as being a high mission-critical resource. Because of that, and because of the relevant destination operating system, the risk rating was increased to the maximum of 100, and we've not only prevented the attack, but also logged the packets relevant to the attack to allow forensic investigation of the attempted attack on our business-critical server. Now let's look at a second example that demonstrates our global correlation feature to equip our sensor with information about the attacker. The signature firing in this example is 5575, which indicates a client attempt to connect to a non-existing NetBIOS name on an SMB server. This could indicate a reconnaissance attempt, but could also indicate a user error. For example, a user just mistyped the name of a NetBIOS resource he or she was attempting to connect to. In this case, we leverage SIO, which provides us with a reputation score associated with the source IP address. As you can see here, we have 3 events showing the same signature fired for a failed NetBIOS service login attempt to the same server. The first 2 events from the top are from the same source and are a legitimate user who tried to connect to a non-existing NetBIOS resource. The third event is a connection attempt to the same server. However, this time the source is a known source for malicious activity. SIO informed us the reputation of the source is -5.7. As you can see here. Because of this negative reputation, our risk rating was elevated and a mitigation decision was taken to drop the reconnaissance attempt packets. As we've demonstrated, visibility through context-aware event management is a crucial part of our architecture. CSM4 provides event management with custom filtering that allows analysts to focus on threats that pose a real business risk and equip them with appropriate contextual information to take immediate action when needed. Let's summarize with a couple of key points where the Cisco Context-Aware IPS architecture addresses business and security needs. First of all, customers want to know the business risk of the threats against their assets. Our technology is designed to give them the business risk assessments through a risk rating, taking into account information from the SecureX architecture. Customers also want greater accuracy when the threat is occurring. Cisco achieves this by using more data from more sources and compiles this information. Customers want speed. Cisco pulls this information together inline and not after the fact in the management plane. Customers need efficiency. The Cisco Context-Aware architecture significantly improves efficiency by using context to allow analysts and operators to focus on events that indicate a real threat to their business. Customers want visibility. CSM4 provides event management with custom filters, custom reporting, and more.